Today's interview is a special one and quite different than usual. Jeff Pfol has been developing a formulation to help fellow CRPS warriors because Jeff's wife has CRPS. And combined with Jeff's unique background in research in medicine, he has made it a goal of his to help not only his wife, but other CRPS warriors find relief. So I'm very excited to dive into this topic. I've seen Jeff all around the community of CRPS and people posting success stories with his formulation. So Jeff, thank you for joining today and sharing a bit about what you've been working on and a little bit about your journey. Do you mind sharing, before your wife developed CRPS, can you share with me a bit about your background in medicine?
Yeah, so my wife and I actually met in Plattsburgh State University College. I tutored her in biochemical genetics for one semester. She's been tutoring me in life ever since. So it's 30 some odd years. I got the better end of the deal. And so we were best friends in college, and she was in microbiology and I was in cell biology, biotechnology, and we were best friends. And eventually we began to realize it was more than friends. And so we married. Within a year getting out of undergrad. And then I went to grad school at Duke. Spent a couple of years working in a biotech company before that called GIPCO, Grand Island Biological Company. It's been taken over. I can't remember the name of the company that took it, but they made artificial media to grow cells and all of that type of stuff. So I worked on projects trying to make media to grow skin cells for burn grafts and a variety of different things, hybridomas to produce antibodies, and then went to grad school at Duke in immunology and in North Carolina, and was studying for my doctorate in immunology. About a year in, we had our second child on the way, and we decided that we had to make a better income. Although I was there on full scholarship and stipend, it wasn't enough to support a family. So, um, hey, Jose just jumped on board. But and so I studied that immunology. I had a real strong immunology interest even from undergrad, because I feel like if we could tweak our immune system, we can deal with a lot of issues, whether it's autoimmune and inflammatory, like we're dealing with CRPS, or cancer biology, where we can trigger the immune system to attack cancer cells. And so it was a great interest. And I left there with a master's in about a year and 9 months. I think that was the quickest they've ever had, and stepped into industry. Worked for a company called Embrex. Embrex had a machine that vaccinated chickens in the eggs before they hatched. It was a really cool deal. Came out of NC State. And so 3 days before the chicken hatch, it would actually inject the vaccine into the egg, and that would allow the chickens actually to have immunity before they hit the field. It was a big deal, and it also eliminated a very tedious process that caused a lot of hand injuries for the workers in the hatcheries. And so I worked in those projects trying to develop an immune modulator to make the vaccines more effective. And then after that, I went to GlaxoSmithKline. GlaxoSmithKline, it was actually Glaxo Wellcome. And there I met the greatest scientific mentor I ever had. His name is Jennings Worley. Unfortunately, he is passed, but phenomenal, brilliant man, working on ion channels and the biophysics of ion channels. And he began to teach me all those methodology. And I developed a bunch of assays trying to look at ion channel activity. And so in that work, I looked at pain-related channels as well. So one of the new components we just put in the product, Neuringen, blocks a sodium channel that's specific to the sensory neurons out in your periphery. So and that sends the signal of pain to your spine. And so we worked on that back in 2002, I think it was, for compound. But there's a natural product that does it. It comes from grain fruit, and that has helped quite a bit. Another project we worked on was called TRPV1, or actually VR1 when we started. But this is the receptor that responds to capsaicin, or chili pepper. It's what gives you the hot sensation. And our work with that receptor not only showed that chili pepper activated it, acid activated it, heat activated it, but I was able to show as well in a special microfluidic environment that stretch activated it. And so when my wife began to describe her pain and the allodynia, right, the super sensitivity to touch, I'm like, I bet you it's that channel. And so we looked for natural products that would block that. And that all that experience in pain research has allowed me to go into the literature and go after pain targets and develop a formula with different molecules that are known, have been shown in the literature to block or activate the different receptors involved in ion channels, etc. And my wife is actually in regulatory affairs. So she's worked for major companies like Teleflex Medical, and so thankfully she's going to be able to help us as we go forward to deal with the regulatory environment for our natural products. So we're excited about that.
That's great. So how did you go about, because I don't know anything about the space you're in, how did you go about doing testing and creating this formula? Did you go to a specific lab? Did you do it at home? What did that look like?
So I met with people that have CRPS. My wife was the first one. So when I first formulated it in 2017, there was 5 components that I felt would make a difference. And it was really remarkable when I gave it to her. She used to be curled up in a ball. I think you know personally that pain. Curled up in the ball on a bed, and gave it to her in about 30 minutes. She was actually able to get up. It was really remarkable. So it had good efficacy the first shot. But the beginning of this year, I was able to meet other CRPS sufferers, and through that, we began looking at other molecules as well. That might impact CRPS, and then added them to the formula. It confirmed that they were having an impact. So for example, the naringin, it brought pain down an extra point or two when we tested it. And all of the mixing is done in my home. I mean, all records are kept. It's kind of a GMP, but it's not official. So as we go further, we have a company that will manufacture it for us. They are FDA approved on NutriCap, and they'll be able to manufacture it for us, and then we can start using that formula that's been done under an appropriate FDA licensed facility to begin to do clinical trials. And we just got Dr. Kiersmuller is coming aboard. She's a DO, and she actually contacted us because one of her patients tried our product and it worked so well. And so she'll come aboard and help us as we start developing testing that will drive claims, et cetera, with the FDA. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah, yeah. And I wanted to thank you, Jose, for joining the call today. It's nice to meet you. Can you hear and see us okay? That's great. So Jeff, how many people with CRPS are currently using your formulation?
I think we're at 25 folks have now tested it, and we're at an 87% success rate, so almost 90. So we have a couple people that haven't responded at all, and then we have an individual that responded and now is not responding. So, but it's a pretty good success rate. And then for those that are not successful, we're still working with them. So we're going to continue going until we get them taken care of as well. Hopefully, praying about that and trying different things to see if we can break that cycle. CRPS is a really really variable disease. For example, we have some folks that get relief with 625 milligrams of the product in one capsule, and some folks where it takes 2.5 to almost 3 grams, and so you just have such a variability. And then same thing with time. So what we have found, typically when people begin to dose, they're typically around 3.5, 4 hours of relief, but they average out around 6 or so. But we have folks getting 12 to 13 hours as well. And then in flare-ups, it's typically shorter, 3 or 4 hours. And you can take the product 3 times a day.
So we've been describing this product as a formulation. Can you explain what is in this formulation at a high level?
Yeah, so there's 11 different natural products in it. So it's a tea. It's a powder that you would mix with hot water and let it extract. You add some lemon juice to it and let it extract or brew for 5 minutes, and then add cold water or something else, juice, to improve the flavor, and drink the whole thing at one time. And there's things in there that people commonly know about, like turmeric. Turmeric, right? We have the compound from turmeric that is effective. For example, in the product, the not the product that we're going to sell, but we have found that kratom improves the efficacy of the product. So kratom is a relative to the coffee plant. It has two molecules in it called mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine, and these activate the mu opioid receptor, but differently than standard opioids. So standard opioids activate that receptor 100%, plus they can activate the other opioid receptors, giving that euphoria feeling and that addictive process. Here, kratom can only activate the mu opioid receptor 50%. It's called a partial agonist. So you get pain relief without the addiction. And what's really interesting, we just finished a study. So what we have found with this product, for example, in chronic pain, all the different scenarios that we've tested, 70%, greater than 70% of people that take this product are off of opioids in 1 to 7 days. They're able to eliminate the opioid use completely. And so based on that, we modified the formulation specifically to addiction. And we had an individual that was on methadone for 14 years, high dose. That's really hard to get off of. And then using our product, lowering their methadone, then adding our product in, they were able to get off of methadone in 2 weeks and 4 days, which is really exciting. And now we just finished another individual who was addicted to kratom. So you can get addicted to kratom if you really abuse it heavily and take high doses, and you are predisposition. I don't want to go into all of the science behind it, but there are people that are predisposition to addiction, probably through what's called an epigenetic mechanism. They inherited that from their parents. Epigenetics is basically what genes are turned on and turned off. So if you think of a gene and a dimmer light, you can have it turned up all the way, turned halfway, etc., and all that's finely controlled. And then that information of control is transferred to the children. So people are predispositions for diabetes, obesity, etc., addiction. So this individual was very, very addicted. He was taking 6 to 10 of those free drinks, or free something free. They're a kratom kava mix, and the FDA pulled him off the shelf a while back. But anyways, with him, we got him out of that situation with a modified formula in just 4 days. So it was kind of neat. Yeah.
So your formulation, just as added plus, helped that that person overcome their.
Yeah, so that was a modified formulation.
Okay.
So based on what we saw with people getting off opiates in pain. Now, when you're dependent on an opiate or an opioid for pain, it's a little different pathway than an addiction pathway. So we modified it for addiction specifically, and we have 3 different products in develop. One that's dealing with opioid, and so far we're 2 for 2 with people that had addiction to opioids. And then we have a tobacco and an alcohol-based formula as well, and we're seeing some promising results with those. But that's a modification. It has other things in it.
I have a very unrelated question. Since you're very familiar with this space, I recently finally was able to stop taking Cymbalta, but it took me a long time to get there. And the only reason why it took me a long time was not because I was taking it for the pain. I was taking it because if I didn't take it, I got a headache. And I even got to the point where I was on the lowest dosage possible. I was taking it every other day. But if I skipped a day, if I went 2 days, I would get the headache. And I eventually just had to go cold turkey, and it took about 10 days where I just had to power through and get the sporadic headache throughout the day for 10 days. Is that something that you're seeing as well? People struggle with?
I'm not sure if it would actually help that. I believe Cymbalta, and I just want to make a chance to make a well, just check, but I believe it's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, if I remember correctly. And let's see. Yeah, it is an inhibitor of reuptake of serotonin and norepinephrine, so 2 separate things. So, for example, there are natural products that have similar activities, like St. John's wort is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I'm not sure what our addiction product would do. I could probably modified a bit more to deal with that. And we are coming out with a depression anxiety formulation that's going to be natural product that's going to kind of hit more than one target. The same concept. Let's hit more than one target.
So I know I've seen you post in community groups the data behind the product. Do you mind sharing a bit of what that looks like, of the
Sure.
sort of the data and the proof behind how the formulation is performing?
Hmm. And so I'm not going to go through all of this. We'll go through real quick just some of the things. But this was recently recorded and put on YouTube, and I can give you the link if you want to add it. But the pain scale, we keep the same pain scale so that it'll eventually be accepted by the FDA. This was an explanation of CRPS, all the symptoms. Um, this is how we're attacking it. So if you look at CRPS, um, first of all, they think there's a disconnect between your sensory nervous system, which senses pain, and your sympathetic nervous system, which sends the inflammatory signal to the injured limb. So when you get an injury, you send a pain signal through sensory neurons, and then they travel through the spinal thalamic, and then they go to the brain. The brain actually interprets those pain symptoms and perception. Then you get a concomitant inflammatory signal. That inflammatory signal goes back to the injured limb. So you have immune cells in case you have bacteria, you have other cells to repair the damage, etc. And it's supposed to be a single cycle. What happens with this disconnect is that it becomes a vicious cycle where the inflammatory signal goes back to the limb, and the limb, then that inflammation generates more pain, and then it goes back to the brain. You get a vicious loop. So we have 11 natural products targeting greater than 20 targets. So we're talking about ion channels, for example, sodium channels. That naringin, for example, blocks a sodium channel that's helping send the signal to the spine. Receptors, enzyme at the back end. So your COX-1 and COX-2 and LOX, your inflammatory enzymes, cytokines, and small molecules. And so we're blocking every step of the way. Here we have natural products that block what's called nociceptors, or the things that actually detect pain. Here we're blocking, again, that signal going from your sensory neuron to the spine. We're blocking the signal coming from the spine with other sodium channel inhibitors. In the brain, we're dealing with the opioid receptors, as I mentioned before. Partial agonist of the mu, 50% activating the mu, which gives you pain relief, no addiction. And we got other things in there as well that deal with dopamine, etc. And then you have this inflammatory signal, which we are blocking. So TNF alpha, the different cytokines that come in, and then right down into the enzymes at the end. And so what we've done is a approach. We're not trying to block everything 100%, but we are dampening down the whole signal, if I could put it that way. That's theory at this point. It works. We're looking for collaborators to do some models, et cetera, to figure out. So as far as administration, it's an oral liquid dose. It's like a tea, but we have encapsulated it. For gastroparesis, as I mentioned before, 24. We have a new one, 25. And we have 3 that, as I mentioned, did not respond. 1 responded initially, doesn't have any response now. 2 have no impact at all. But around everybody else, we saw greater than 30% relief, majority greater than 70%, some upwards of 90. So we have folks that when we met, they were at an 8 or a 9, and they are down to a 1 with the product. And so Danielle is the first person that we worked with. And Danielle has multiple diseases. She has fibromyalgia. She has EDS, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a genetic disorder of your connective tissue, which causes your joints to continually dislocate, or called subluxation. And so you get the swelling there, and then there you can see classic CRPS. And as she was testing the product, and she was doing different testing of the product, we saw 41 days out that her inflammation was really impacted. And she missed 17 days of product, and then 60 days out, we see almost all inflammation gone. This is a constant. We're seeing this. So the anti-inflammatory effect is incredible. This is now looking at pain. So what we did was a single dose daily, and she would measure her pain or write down her pain before the dose, and then 1 hour after dose. We saw 30 minutes was a half maximum. And so she got good pain relief. She has two sites, her ribs from 20 years ago in an accident, and then her foot from surgery at the beginning of the year. And you can see good pain relief. And the surprise to us was the continued drop of baseline pain before dose and then down to a really low level. Here she missed doses. So at this point, we're not driving remission. That's our goal. And the foot was the same thing. So this is typical. We're seeing these types of responses, people getting pain relief and then increased pain relief over time. This is her allodynia, so it was all the way up her leg. If you pressed her leg here, it felt like a cigarette burn. And as she began to take the product, the allodynia significantly, the area significantly reduced, and she's currently right about here. And so we're seeing that as well, allodynia. That the concomitant symptoms that come with CRPS, there's up to 30 to 40 of them. We're seeing an incredible decrease in the number of symptoms that people have. As I mentioned before, people respond differently, right? So we have some people that just one little capsule works, some people that needs more. And so everybody does a dose response. And here's Danielle looking at her dose response where she had 2 teaspoons of product, gave a good response, 2 1/4 gave more, and then 2 1/2 gave no benefit. Similar with the foot. And that's what we have found is that once you reach your effective dose, it makes no sense to go any higher. We recommend people do a dose response to find the lowest dose that is a maximum efficacious for them. Of course, you want to save the product. This is an interesting scenario with her knee. She dislocated her knee here. You can see the swelling on the right. Her typical standard of care for her was 4 to 6 weeks in a chair, immobilized in a brace to have that knee inflammation resolve. And this is now 8 days with the product. So she was taking the product when it happened. She's 8 days on the product and she didn't change her lifestyle at all. Ambulatory, she just put on K-tape and a brace if she went outside. And then this is talking about her symptoms. So nail and hair growth returned from none to 100% in her foot. So we're seeing systemic changes. Her rib pain was decreased. Her joint pain from EDS was alleviated. Her flares were greatly reduced in frequency. But what we're finding is it's still induced by weather and overactivity. I could tell where all the storms were this spring and summer by the folks that we were working with. That accident she had 20 years ago caused severe cervical spine injuries. And so she had issues. They want to do surgery, but if you're a CRPS patient, you stay away from that. Anyways, her spinal headaches went away. Asthma and lung restriction improved by 25%. I'm presuming that's just an overall lowering of inflammation, increased her step count from 2K to 7K, better quality, better concentration and focus, improved quality. Now, stratusbio.com is now live, and her story is on that website. This is Jose that you just talked to, and this is the original formula I developed for my wife. And so if you look at these data, very different, right? Parallel lines, great pain relief, but no continuing of the pain relief. And we didn't know if that was because it was the original formula or modified. And so this is now a modification of the formula without the Nuringen, actually. And you can see he's getting down to a 2. With the Nuringen now, he gets down to 1 to a 3. We actually have people touching 0 now, 0 pain. Jose's heart rate was elevated from the pain. That's not uncommon with chronic pain. And so he's running around 100 to 110. He took the first dose. He actually texted me within an hour saying, my goodness, my heart's back to normal. The rate back to around 72. And so that's very consistent as well. So we're seeing a lot of symptoms being impacted. He talked about the coldness in his right hand. That's been improved by 75%. He couldn't move his arm, and now he's up to 70%, 75% mobility, 60, 75, improved quality of life, teeth pain. Jose had an impacted tooth. That's not uncommon with CRPS patients as well because they're grinding their teeth from the pain, and there's theory that you have less blood flow in the gums. And so he took the product, and remarkably, an impacted tooth that decreased the pain by 75%, anxiety and depression decreased by 50%. His testimony is also on the website. Karen has gastroparesis, which is a common other symptom that can come with CRPS. So she could not drink the formula. She immediately regurgitate it. So she took encapsulated formula. I think it was like 15. She used double knot capsules, 12 to 15 capsules, and she sees pretty good pain relief here. A little different, a little more parallel, but still getting pain relief. And all the folks that have come to me, I think it's really important. The folks that have come to me had already exhausted all their other avenues, right? They were desperate, desperate enough to try a formulation for some crazy scientist, right? So, and so these responses, that we're seeing, I think my gut feeling is if we get people early on in the CRPS with this product, we're going to wipe out the majority of it with people in a different protocol. Here's a little modeling on her foot that went away in an hour, and my wife is the same. Her hands would turn purple, they'll go away. This is really remarkable data. So this is almost a blistering type inflammation she gets in her chest from the CRPS. You can see it's almost blistering. But based on stress, 1 hour post taking the product and the next morning. So the anti-inflammatory effect is just so remarkable. It's almost like a steroid. Here's her symptoms. So I'm not going to go through all the symptoms, but these are the symptoms that she dealt with: deep bone ache, allodynia, muscle spasms, all the things that you can get. And when she took the product, they started going away. But on day 3, she had this flare up from a blood draw. Right? She had a blood draw here, and she gets a flare up. So they came back, and then day 4, now she's at much limited symptoms. So we're seeing a great reduction in all of the deep other symptoms. Kim's an interesting example in that she didn't get as great pain relief up front, but every day she took it, single dose a day, her pain got down. I think she's probably down around a 2 now, and long period of time. She's one of the longest for relief, looking at 12, 13 hours, and everybody's different. Here we can see her foot here, the CRPS in her foot, 1 hour after, 24 hours after. So good impact on the swelling. And this is the 2-day slide. You can see the swelling in the foot. She was working with her husband on her feet all day, and see that swelling, and then reducing it one day, and then you can actually see the ankle definition coming out here, and she started to get good relief. Her symptoms, huge number of symptoms. That's not uncommon. By the time she was at day 6, she only had 4 of the symptoms left. This is a young lady, Chloe. She got it in February 2022. They don't know what caused it. They have no idea. That can happen as well with CRPS, and you can see her leg and the inflammation in her leg and her other leg and her feet. And then this is 5 days post now. So this is before and 5 days post on the Stratus Bio product. You can see complete cleanup, as well as the feet back to normal. There's that purple I was telling you about. And then her legs, her pain before supplementation was at a 6. Day 1, when she took it, it took it to a 4. Now she's down to a 0.5. So life's getting back to normal. And that's what's so rewarding about this for me, is to see people actually getting their life back together. We had a woman in Florida that hadn't walked outside her house for 2 years, I think it was, because of her CRPS, the first dose of it. And she was the one that took only 1 capsule, 625 milligrams. She was able to walk 2 houses down and back. And so to hear these reports, it's incredibly rewarding to have people get their lives back, Susie, now, she was just constant pain relief. So she was around a 7.5 before and around a 2 after. And she didn't have that general decrease that we talked about. That's just every day she wakes up, she's up here, and she takes it, she gets there. So different response for different people. Look at some of these life impacts that we see with people. First time walking outside since May of 2023 with the first dose. That's the woman I was talking about. Alicia was able to walk unassisted. First time since September 2023. She had the walker. She couldn't go forward. First time taking a shower since January of 2024. At that point, it was 6 months. And so if you have CRPS and allodynia, you know that showers feel like razor blades cutting into your skin. And so Shoshana was able to actually take a shower after 6 months. Very, very excited. And we saw these from Daniel. She increased her step count, and she was able to walk without a cane. Jose could move his shoulder. This is an interesting story. What I found is I was sending samples to people to test, and they were supposed to test them daily. They would end up saving some for a special day. And so this individual saved a dose for Mother's Day and took the dose. It was her best Mother's Day in a long time. And she was able to ride a motorcycle for the first time in 2 years. Now, I don't think I'd recommend that for a CRPS patient, but she was very excited. Doing chores and activities which had not been done in years and able to sleep through the night. And insomnia majorly reduced. And duration, as I mentioned before, typically 3.5 hours with the early doses. Later on, it goes to about 6. This is really interesting. So this is looking at pain relief in 3 individuals, giving them a placebo control, and then the different components, up this point up to 8, we're at 11 now, but different components mixed in with placebo, so it all had the same volume. And you can see there's no impact on pain until they're all together. So it's a concert effect, and I think that's really how medicine is going to go, where we're going to start attacking things from more than one angle. This is an individual with degenerative disc and stenosis, from a 7 to a 3. That's the same relief he got with his Vicodin protocol, about identical. He was able to replace his opioids completely. We did have some adverse effects, some indigestion, which typically resolves with use. If it doesn't, Prilosec or an antacid works well. Burning in the mouth and lips, which lasts 2 to 3 hours. That was one individual. That's coming from a important molecule in the formulation called piperine. Lethargy. So what was really interesting is people would take the product, immediately fall asleep, and some folks. And it turns out that they hadn't slept through the night for ages. So as soon as they got pain relief, they were able to go to sleep. And with continued use, they got back to normal. And then this is just looking at a bunch of different modalities that we looked at. So we have pain reduction and opioid reduction. And so with CRPS, 87% responding, up to greater than 80% pain relief, up to 100% opioid elimination, back surgery, 60% pain relief, no opioid reduction. And then we go on to degenerative disc, kyphosis, neuropathy, EDS, dental, lupus, broken vertebrae, fibromyalgia, crushed vertebrae, arthritis, gout, all of them. So every chronic pain modality disease that we have tested so far has proven effective at 100%, and CRPS is 87%. So we don't know where that's going in the future as we expand and people use it. Here's an interesting scenario as well, this anecdotal. So it was with the original product, and we were planning another assembly of the original Christian church north of Tampa. We were in Tampa planning a church there, and we were renting from a building, and one of the people on the board, their daughter was a heavy heroin usage, multiple times a day. And with that original product, she was able to reduce her heroin usage by 80%. So that's kind of what drove us towards trying to do the addiction formula. And here's the addiction formula. Methadone, she was taking 40 mgs twice daily. She was able to reduce that to 5 mgs twice daily and had some symptoms, but not that bad, a 75% reduction of symptoms. Went to 5 mgs of methadone every night. And then our formulation, the addiction formulation, had reduction in symptoms, not quite as good, but it was tolerable. And that's the important part. 4 days out now, she took a half a Percocet. So she switched from methadone to a half a Percocet. Same scenario with the symptoms. And now she's not on methadone, and she only takes a half a Percocet for pain relief if she has a major flare up. So methadone is one of the most difficult opioids to get off of because it has such a long half-life. So it's really, really exciting to see that. That suggests that this formulation is going to impact a lot of people in the opioid crisis. And then here is the individual that had the kratom addiction. So they were taking 6 to 10 feel-free kava kratom drinks daily. That's a lot, $10 a pop. That's a lot of money. And anyways, when he stopped, he had severe anxiety, severe nausea, headache, uncontrollable tremors, really, really bad. And so his physician prescribed a benzodiazepine to deal with the anxiety, but he still had the severe withdrawals. As day 1, he consumed the beverage. Day 2 was the same. Day 3, he limited his drink, 1/3 the drink volume. By the time he gets to day 4 and tries our product, 2 doses of formula, he did not drink any. He had very mild withdrawal and no drink consumption. And then 1 dose of formula day 5, day 6 benzodiazepine only, and day 7 completely clear. And so, it's really, really exciting where we're at. I think we're at a breakthrough. I really do. My gut feeling. I've been in science a long time. I showed this to an individual, actually, a VP of medical affairs for one of the largest medical device companies in the US, billion-dollar company, and he's over the pain side of it. They make the RFA devices and the spinal cord stimulators. When he saw the data, he said, "You need to patent that." He said, "That's a billion-dollar product." And so we did patent it. And hopefully it is a billion-dollar product so we can help a lot of people, because that's our goal. We're healing. Our business model is healing, not people, not necessarily profit. So hopefully that helps. You have any questions about that data?
No, that was all super detailed and very helpful, and everyone's journey and how they got to where they are is so very different, and that was very apparent in every story you shared. So I appreciate you sharing that. There's just so many different factors that are in play in everyone's story and everyone's life. If someone wanted to not only learn more, but wanted to try the formulation, is the best place for them to go your website?
They could go to the website and email me. There's my email information there. There's a phone number there as well. And so they can do that, or on Facebook if they're in the groups, they can DM me. I'm getting DMs now almost every day, so that's exciting. It's people are beginning to know that it's happening. So absolutely, the website or Facebook, and we're happy to let people try it and see if it helps.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time, Jeff, and I know that the community will find this very helpful. And I really hope that this will help you get the word out as well. And I wish you nothing but continued success. And I look forward to seeing your name everywhere, not just in the CRPS community, but like you mentioned before we started recording, that your goal is to help other people who are struggling with chronic conditions as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to meeting again. And if you personally want to try it, I can send you the formulation without the kratom. So that formulation without the kratom is about anywhere from 70 to 100% as effective depending on the person. It's such a weird disease. You know what I mean?
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone is different.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Great. Well, thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for your time, Jeff. It was very nice to see you again. You take care.
You take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.